Good morning. This is Dan Kennedy, CEO of NAIOP New Jersey chapter. I'm here to welcome you to this special NAIOP New Jersey refresher webinar, New Jersey benchmarking requirements, what you need to know. We held the session of this nature, I believe it was about a year ago, and we've invited Casey Fitzgerald back, program manager at Utility Advantage LLC, and we've added in our NAIOP New Jersey member and friend, owner of Energy Plus Solutions, Jeff Grant, to add a little bit of industry perspective, how the last year or so has gone under these new benchmarking requirements. First, I'd like to thank our NAIOP New Jersey master sponsors. Without their support and dedication, events like this webinar would not be possible, and all of our other education programs would not be possible. Our thanks, and yes, we are still recruiting for 2026. So if you're hearing this and want to learn more about our platinum through bronze levels of master sponsors, you can reach out to the team here, and we'll be happy to get you some information. Please mark your calendars. Yes, next week, Thursday. We hope that the early part of your 2026 is going well, both personally and professionally. But we are back to work here at NAIOP New Jersey. Next Thursday, we have our annual meeting in CRE Outlook featuring our keynote economist, Jeff Otto from the Otto Group. Those that have heard Jeff talk about a wide range of real estate matters in the past know that it's going to be both informative, informational, and interesting. So the other aspect of this is we're going to be rolling out some policy perspectives with our chief lobbyist, Anthony Pizzitulo, and member Ted Zingari from Sills, Cummins and Gross. We've got some other irons in the fire with additional speakers, and we'll announce them in the coming week. But yes, January 22nd, Hilton Short Hills, please join us. Along with in March, we will be having a full public policy symposium. We are going to be focusing on bringing in members of the next administration, which starts in earnest next Tuesday. Actually, the transition has started in earnest the day after Election Day. But on March 19th, details to follow. We'll be focusing on a full range of public policy issues with the new Governor Sherrill administration. And then in April, looking a little bit further forward, we'll have our Industry Insights chapter meeting, and details will be available on that soon. So please, let's move on to today's program. With the next governor, will become different priorities and challenges. We know that energy will be a priority for Governor Sherrill. We also know that in the commercial real estate industry, the new currency is power availability, and we often get lost in talking about hyperscalers and data centers. But those that own and manage real estate in New Jersey know that it's much more nuanced than just talking about data centers. So in our recent magazine, our winter magazine from NAIOP New Jersey focuses on power issues. NAIOP New Jersey has added energy as a top policy priority for not just next year, but the years to come, both at the state level and the federal level. And we are pleased to continue that conversation today that we had last year with Casey Fitzgerald. So Casey, you have the ball. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. Just bear with me as I share my screen here, and we'll get going with the refresher slash updates on the New Jersey benchmarking program run by the BPU. So hi everyone, once again, Casey Fitzgerald. I'm the help desk manager for the state's mandated benchmarking program. As you can see, I work with Utility Advantage. So I just wanted to provide some background information on Utility Advantage before we get too far into the weeds here. So Utility Advantage is an energy and sustainability consulting company. We're New Jersey registered and bonded consultants. We're also women owned and operated and have been in business since 2003. And most relevant to today's presentation, we were selected by the BPU to provide help desk support for the mandated program. One thing to note there, all of our help desk staff, anyone that we put on the help desk, will be certified as New Jersey benchmarking professionals. And I'll just wrap it up with by saying that our management team here at Utility Advantage has over 130 years of combined experience. So just know that if you are a commercial real estate owner or building owner, or even a third party benchmarker, and you need assistance from the help desk when you call in, you'll not only be speaking with someone who is local, but also someone who is very, very familiar with benchmarking as a practice. So with that being said, here's a little quick look at our agenda for today. I'm going to be going through the benchmarking program, what resources there are from the help desk that can help support you through the journey, some best practices for reaching a compliance, and then we'll talk a little bit about how benchmarking drives energy efficiency projects. So to set the stage for benchmarking as a whole, I want to draw your attention to this 2018 survey conducted by the United States Energy Information Administration. So in the survey, they determined that commercial buildings accounted for 97 billion square feet and ultimately 40% of the total energy consumed in the United States. So with that amount of energy being consumed, it becomes vital for building owners and energy efficiency implementers to incorporate benchmarking as a first step to their energy efficiency strategies. That way they understand how their properties are performing and where improvements can be made. So what is energy benchmarking as it relates to New Jersey? So energy benchmarking in New Jersey requires building owners and operators of commercial buildings over 25,000 square feet to assess and rate their buildings. This is done with the intention to improve the efficiency and operations of America's building stock. And just know that New Jersey, a couple of years ago, joined several cities and states to implement a required benchmarking policy. And while some of those policymakers and jurisdictions have enacted further requirements to achieve those specific performance targets, New Jersey is not one of them at this time. So why should anybody benchmark is kind of the next question I like to tackle here. So benchmarking helps answer the question, how efficient are my facilities? You're able to track water and energy use as well as cost over time and compare them to similar buildings. This will help you better manage ongoing costs by helping to identify underperforming buildings that you may have in your portfolio. It can also open the door to find ways to increase energy savings while reducing greenhouse gases, and it also opens the door to participate in generous incentive programs run by state and utilities. And overall, with the goal of having the most efficient buildings will just overall improve comfort for your tenants. Some further benefits of benchmarking: you can actually earn an Energy Star certification and put a physical plaque up on the wall at your building, so you can signal to the world that you own an efficient building. It can also help drive real estate valuation. So according to the DOE's 2013 Designing a Benchmarking Plan report, it helps drive new investments. It can actually help create jobs. So 5 to 15 green jobs per $1 million invested could be created by just benchmarking. And then ultimately, as I mentioned before, with the goal of having the most efficient buildings possible, efficient buildings are more profitable and valuable at resale. They can help increase property tax revenues. And when building owners are seeking to add or acquire a building to their portfolio, they can access the benchmarking data to help differentiate the buildings and make sure that they're getting the most efficient building possible. So a little bit more background on what exactly caused the impetus of the benchmarking program as mandated by the state. So here's the actual language. So back in 2018, the Clean Energy Act was signed into law by Governor Murphy, and it has a mandate for the benchmarking requirements stating that no later than 5 years after the date of enactment, the the board shall require the owner or operator of each commercial building over 25,000 square feet in the state to benchmark energy and water use for the prior calendar year using the EPA's portfolio manager tool. So a little bit more background on the Energy Star Portfolio Manager itself. It's a free tool that provides a rating from 1 to 100 for your buildings. It'll compare it to other similar properties within the EPA's database. And so if you receive a score of 1, that means that your building is the least efficient one compared to similar properties, and 100 being the most efficient among those type of buildings. To earn the certification that you can put on your wall, you have to at least earn a 75 to be eligible for the Energy Star certification. And certification is only applicable to certain types as shown on the screen here. I'm not going to read them all through, but just keep in mind that there are only certain building types that are eligible for an Energy Star certification. And just to give a visual on what Energy Star Portfolio Manager looks like, on the left-hand side, you have the ability, it shows what a profile would look like in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. You can set up your building details, the square footage, the floors, so on and so forth. And then ultimately, once you've entered all your utility information, a full year's worth of bills, you can create an output report as shown on the right-hand side of the screen. So you see that this building in the example has a score of 94, so it is a fairly efficient building when compared to the other properties in the EPA's database. Excuse me. So you may be asking, who has to comply with the Clean Energy Act? And it's as follows. The BPU defined a commercial building as any building with a tax assessment class of 4A, which are commercial buildings, and class 4C, which are residential properties. A covered buildings list is produced each and every year. So we're currently in the works, in the process of updating the list, and it should be published here in the next several weeks. And so if your building is required to report, it should appear on the covered buildings list, which again is made public each and every year. And each building will have a unique building ID or UBID assigned to each property. Now, there are some examples of buildings that would qualify for an exemption and therefore not be required to submit a benchmarking report. So if your building receives a notice or is listed on the state's covered buildings list, this may apply to you. So some of the more prevalent examples that we receive are for properties that are under 25,000 square feet. This is an example of when you can apply for what we call a permanent exemption. So you provide us with the documentation showing that the property is under 25,000 square feet, and we'll remove it from the covered buildings list permanently, so you don't continue to receive communications requiring, stating that you are required to submit your building. And then there are such things as annual exemptions. This typically is seen when a building has been unoccupied, properties are sold or purchased during the reporting year, or a property is facing financial distress. So in order to submit these requests, you would navigate to the help desk or send us an email, but we'll just require that you submit the required documentation, the supporting documentation. So for example, with the size, we ask for building surveys or architectural drawings of the building showing the square footage. Our team will make a determination of the exemption and then provide you an update on the exemption status. Now, some of you may have buildings that have multiple tenants, strip malls, large multifamily buildings. So in order to make the process of obtaining the utility data easier, the BPU required all investor-owned utilities to develop a system to provide aggregated data directly to the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So when requesting data from utilities, one thing to keep in mind is something known as the 450 rule. The rule states that utilities must provide aggregated data if there are 4 or more utility customers, and not one of those customers exceeds 50% of the annual usage for that specific utility. So if the 450 rule is not applicable, then you do need to obtain individual consent to access for each tenant. And then for the non-investor owned utilities, we recommend that you check with the local municipal utilities for what kind of data support they can provide. So some deadlines to keep in mind, and this is a hard deadline. I'll kind of get out in front of that before the third bullet point there. But the submission every year moving forward is going to be July 1st, and we require that you submit the utility data for water, natural gas if you have natural gas, and electricity for the year prior. Annual notices for compliance are going to be sent out in the March timeframe. And again, there's no 90-day grace period for this year like there was in the first 2 years of the program. And just to put a fine point on it, there are no fines or penalties for noncompliance. Now, you may be asking yourself, what if I don't want to do this myself? Well, we do have a list of certified benchmarkers that you can hire and assist in submitting the benchmarking report on an annual basis. So if you would like to hire a certified benchmarker, you can find a list on our website, and just know that the certified benchmarkers have gone through the training program that was established by the BPU. Which includes training modules as well as a written exam to earn the moniker of certified benchmarker. So as you're going through the submissions, you may need some support along the way, someone to point you in the right direction. That's where myself and my team come into play. So the BPU hired Clearly Energy and Utility Advantage to provide the Beam portal and staff for the help desk. The Beam portal is just the CRM that also has the help desk capabilities attached to it. So we're able to track all tickets and inquiries for the benchmarking help desk program. We're staffed 9 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, and we're able to handle tickets, emails, phone calls, and we respond typically within 2 business days to all inquiries. However, our personal goal is to get back to you as soon as possible. So our goal is always to keep the response time under 24 hours. And then just one thing to note, all email responses are standardized and approved by the Board of Public Utility. So if you have a question that begets other questions, or you want to have a more in-depth conversation, I strongly recommend pick up the phone, and we'll talk you through whatever questions that you may have. And that way, and then we'll follow up with an email from there as well. So this is what the knowledge base on our help desk looks like. So this is our contact information. This is where you can find information on just any updates for the general program, where you can submit the exemption requests. Typically, we get a lot of questions asking whether or not a building has been deemed compliant or not. If you have any troubles with the utility data acquisition, we do have a way of escalating it and asking the BPU to contact the guilty party, the guilty utility. So if you're ever having issues, please reach out to my team and myself, and we will escalate it and get you your data as soon as possible. We also get some confusion between Energy Star Portfolio Manager and the Beam system. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager, again, just to highlight, is where you're going to be doing the actual benchmarking itself. It's the tool used for benchmarking, and then Beam is the kind of the resource for yourself. So if you need questions answered, but you don't really necessarily want to talk to somebody, you can navigate to our website. And then we also have a link to a feedback survey, so you can let us know how we're doing as a sport team, but also how the program is doing. And we're very, very open to receiving feedback. So please don't hold back any feedback that you may be having as you are going through this process. Again, this is just the knowledge base, so this will be your resource as you are going through the benchmarking process. So you can navigate here and find FAQs, the exemption request form, instructions step by step on how to report. We have links to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the training videos for them. This is also where you'll find a list of New Jersey certified benchmarkers, any program updates, the link to submit tickets, as well as our newsletter for any program updates. So some typical questions. So I like to say that this is if you have these questions, go ahead and reach out to us, right away, and we're best suited to answer these. So if you have questions about the deadline, it's always going to be July 1st. But if you ever have questions about when the deadline is, feel free to reach out. We do receive a lot of tickets regarding compliance. So whether or not you are compliant, I'll just highlight there that the system takes roughly 24 hours to review a submission. So if you submitted today, for example, we would just ask that you wait until tomorrow to reach out to us to confirm the compliance status of your property. If you need to fill out an exemption, this is where you would do so. Whether or not you need to comply, we help people all the time figure out whether or not they are actually on the covered buildings list. And another hot button topic question that we get all the time is whether or not there are fines or penalties. And I'll just go ahead and state once more for the record, there are no fines or penalties for noncompliance. Now, there are some times that we might not be the best point of contact as a support team to help you get through it. And typically, what we have found is those are questions that are directly related to the Energy Star Portfolio Manager system. So if you ever are in Energy Star Portfolio Manager and you have issues with your account, or there's a system issue, maybe it's down for the day, or you're not quite sure how to upload your data to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, we can certainly help you as best we can. But the best points of contact would be the Energy Star help desk team. They run on a ticket by ticket basis, but they are incredibly responsive. I myself have gone to them with questions, and we've been able to receive resolutions very, very quickly. So I highly recommend reaching out to the Energy Star support team if needed. So I know I've gone through a lot of information here today. I just want to highlight some best practices to achieve compliance. So I would say, number one, first and foremost, submit for compliance as soon as possible. We're in January right now, so most people have access to their 2025 bills. Someone might be waiting for their final bill of the year to come through, but I would strongly recommend that if you're just a single building owner, just stay on top of your bills, enter them into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager as they come, and you'll be ahead of the curve. One thing to keep in mind, it's kind of a slight warning, is that the utility data aggregation can take some time, depending on the utility that is involved. So the sooner that you get that process running, the better. You're not going to be up against a deadline of July 1st asking for extensions. So I would just submit for compliance as soon as possible. This also allows time for you to correct any errors in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager submission. Our system will auto-verify and send emails to the Energy Star Portfolio Manager contact notifying you of any issues. So if you have any questions regarding those issues or the status of your building, please go ahead and use us as a resource. That's what we're here for, submit tickets for issues and inquiries. But if you need something, if you need to talk through something and you want a more in-depth conversation, please pick up the phone, give us a call, and we're more than happy to talk you through any of the more complex questions and situations. So energy efficiency projects are driven from benchmarking. I know the ultimate goal of benchmarking at a state level is to help inform the utility and state-run energy efficiency programs. So Portfolio Manager will be able to help identify any lower performing buildings in your portfolio that would probably benefit from participating in these programs. We currently do have campaigns to promote the energy efficiency programs to property managers and owners. So we send out scorecards at the end of compliance periods. Well, we have a newsletter that goes out quarterly, and we recently sent out feedback surveys for the first time, which we got a lot of great responses. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the more feedback, the better. We're very open to receiving continuing feedback as we look to improve the program. But these surveys also will help promote the energy efficiency programs that are available. And benchmarking is just a great asset and great first step in running towards those energy efficiency programs. And I'll just finish up here with the last couple of slides here. I want to highlight the resources available to you once again. The knowledge base, our help desk website, essentially. It's where you're going to find the certified benchmarker list. You're going to find the FAQs, further benefits of benchmarking. And there's also the New Jersey Clean Energy website, which has all of New Jersey Clean Energy's programs that you can find more information on, but you can also find the covered buildings list there, some more information on the New Jersey benchmarking policy information. And once again, just it's a wealth of information for other programs. I mentioned a few times that we have a newsletter. I can send the link after the presentation here if you want to sign up for quarterly updates. We do also have a link, and this is important to update any contact information. So if you've sold a property, or you just bought a property, or maybe you've delegated the benchmarking program and you want the emails to be sent to a specific email address, please use the link. And again, I can send it after, but you can update your contact information so that the help desk have the most up-to-date contact information for anyone who is benchmarking through the program. And I'll just end with the contact information, so I can leave it up here, as if we have any questions, but feel free to scan the QR code or navigate to the website. And again, as I mentioned several times throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions and you want to just talk it through, give us a call. We're here to help. So, with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to Dan and see if we have any questions.
Thanks, Casey. I acknowledge that a lot of the questions may be property specific and may be more appropriate for kind of the offer that Casey made to do the one-on-one assistance. But I wanted to offer anyone on the call if they had any general questions, broader questions, and perhaps questions that may be unique to your property that would be informative for others to hear the answer to. Believe you can either put it in the chat or raise your hand. And I'm going to give a couple of seconds here to see if anyone emerges. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next part of our program. Right. I don't see any hands raised or chats. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of questions, but I think it's probably, I'm sure folks will be taking you up on your offer to reach out directly.
I hope so.
Okay. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate it. We will be staying in contact with Casey and as a service to the commercial real estate industry, trying to provide access and information of critical information that matters to the owners and developers of commercial real estate in the state of New Jersey. So this law is not going anywhere, and compliance with the law is required, but there's no penalties. We hope that down the line, the Board of Public Utilities and Utilities aggregates the data and uses it to inform. Casey referenced data from 2018. Federal studies, and eventually I think bring it to a point of kind of benchmarking the benchmarking. I don't think we're there yet, but wondering what this is all getting us other than pitching data into the universe. So up next, Jeff Grant. Jeff is the owner of Energy Plus Solutions, and today's going to walk through some of the practical steps needed for compliance based on his career-long experience and also the experience he's had under this new law. So, Jeff, we welcome you. Thank you so much for participating, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very, very much, Dan. And Casey, thank you for your remarks. It's very appropriate to set the stage here for what we're all going to be talking about. See my slides up here. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's my pleasure to be here to help inform you about the state of states. Dan remarked about where our government is going. And there's that old adage, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said it, if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. And we're in that second mode where we're moving and we're getting regulated. What we're seeing here with this Energy Star benchmarking is what I perceive to be the beginning of a process of greater regulation and control over how much energy facilities use. New York has local laws that dictate your threshold levels, and you get taxed if you exceed them. I think they actually tabled them temporarily after COVID, but that's where the state's heading, and right behind New York. So just keep that in mind as we go. A little bit about myself. Energy Plus Solutions, we're a comprehensive utility consulting firm. We focus on, first low and no cost efficiency improvements, developing efficiency projects, competitive energy procurement, lower the rate, you lower your cost, and then 10 electric revenue boost. I'll talk more about each of those later at the end, near the end. My background has 20 years of corporate experience with Matt Kelly Realty Corporation. We got one of the first Energy Star buildings that was ever awarded. Oversaw 300 facilities, 30 million square feet. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I'm a New Jersey bonded energy agent, aggregator, and energy consultant. I also am a certified benchmarker. So my agenda here is to talk about, who benchmarks and why they benchmark. Perhaps if you're not already benchmarking, it might be something to push you over the top. My remarks, that is. Then we're going to talk about getting the job done, how to simplify the benchmarking process. Then I'll share with you a case study of a building that we did in Covington, Kentucky. And then we'll talk about incentives, and not listed here is energy master planning and the seven P's of management. So, so who benchmarks? Here's a list. This is off the EPA Energy Star website, and you can see my old alma mater there is at the top of the page. A lot of the names have changed. Some of them don't exist anymore. But the point of this slide is different companies benchmark for different reasons, but the studies that have been done that connect corporate management to EPA Energy Star benchmarking in the commercial real estate world, there's a strong correlation between high quality corporate management and superior energy efficiencies. So in other words, that's really saying that those that benchmark, it's a proxy for they've got good management and they're a top tier company. And that's what that means. Energy being anywhere from 20 to 30% of your building's costs, it's a huge cost and it deserves attention. And that's all part of the management matrix. So hopefully that gives you some impetus to be on this list at some point in the future. So what is the process? Casey described how it works. The measurement process is the benchmarking process. You complete, putting all the data into the EPA Energy Star platform, and you get a score. Voila. If it's a score of 75 or higher out of 100, you have the opportunity to apply for an EPA Energy Star building label. And this is an example up here of what the label looks like. You can get it in a plaque, or you can get it in a decal, and it's very impressive, I have to say. When if you walk into a main entrance in the building, what the owners do is they put them right at the main entrance. So you see the Energy Star label. If they've got LEED or Fitwell or well buildings, you'll see all those labels there. And it's it instills a sense of pride of ownership, not only for the building owners, building managers, but for leasing agent, it gives marketing differentiation. So they can say that the building is labeled and it's LEED certified, et cetera. And it have to believe it helps with tenant retention, right? So, but that score, whatever your score is, that really is your rank relative to your competitors, right? And the question is, what do you want to do, to identify and implement improvements to get to that next level? You can get a score of 75 or greater and apply for that label. So we'll talk about what we do. We are the facilitators and sometimes the actual hands that do the work. For the facilitators, what we've designed is a set of specialized data collection forms, specific to your property. We start with the rent roll, and for your property, depending upon what you're doing with the property. This case, we've got, well, the property name is up here. The tenant square footage is here, the tenant name is here, and the suite is here. And every tenant would have one of these. And what we're looking for is data on office use, things like square footage of the office area, the number of operating hours, in this case 40, the number of PCs, the number of computers, and what percent is heated and cooled. There's similar questions. This particular tenant it's a mixed use. They have offices, they have laboratories, they have data centers. So the form is, of course, has to accommodate all that. So the landlord or the manager will fill out these forms, or 8 times out of 10, the tenants, will readily just give you this information. They know it off the top of their head. They might have a little difficulty with the data center information down here, but usually you can get it from the tenants very, very quickly. And it saves everybody a lot of time. Me, you, and the tenants are usually more than happy to help out. So that's where it starts, and all this data gets rolled up and put into the wonderful, very amazing EPA Energy Star benchmarking tool that Casey talked about. So once a benchmarking is done, as the previous flow chart described, if you don't have a score of 75, now it becomes, where's Waldo, if you will? Where can we find improvement opportunities? We identify the opportunities, we put them you put them in a roster, which ones have the best ROI, which ones do we have the capital for, which ones are associated with incentives from the utility company. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we figure out what we want to do next. And keep in mind, I know we're talking to, the real estate world here, and there's that cap valuation process where, a building or an industry trading at a 20% cap rate means that if we're able to drive a dollar per year in savings to the bottom line, that dollar has the effect of multiplying that building's value by 20. So it's a 20-to-1 ratio. And as we do these improvements, the fundamental is always has to improve comfort, improve reliability, and of course that results in greater tenant satisfaction. This building is a case study I wanted to share with you. This is a Covington, Kentucky facility. Most of it was this first part of the building, this large rectangle over here that I'm outlining was built first, and that has its HVAC system. And then there's another add-on wing here that has a separate HVAC system. All told, it's over 400,000 square feet, ground level retail, partially enclosed parking deck, 5 floors of office, and a penthouse. So we benchmarked the building. This client had us do all the survey data on our own. We did it top to bottom, and the score was a whopping 39 out of 100. Not that great. This owner was planning to do lighting conversions. They still had T8 fluorescent. They were going to upgrade their lighting, and they were going to upgrade their automation system. So we did a projection for them. Upgrade the lighting, upgrade the automation system. That'll get you to a 60. But why not higher? I mean, automation systems, LED lighting, and frequency drives, which they had, the building should be well into a 75. So we suggested, well, if you're going to do the building automation system upgrade, BIS stands for Building Automation System, by the way, have the contractor program it in accord with ASHRAE Guideline 36. And that happens to be a guideline that's designed to optimize the building as a whole, not just, the VAV boxes are doing one thing, the chiller plant's doing another, the fan system is doing another. It's designed to optimize the whole building. And you can squeeze another 5% on top of that, on top of a standard approach. I see, by the way, as a sidebar, I see artificial intelligence application being able to handle this at some point in the future, right? Not right now, but that holistic building optimization is really, really what the holy grail is right now in the industry, and people are just sort of trying to figure out how to make it work. Nobody's done it yet, but there's a lot of talk about it. But that's something to think about as we progress here through our energy efficiency discussions. And there are also additional gains to retro-commission. These buildings are over 20 years old, at least the old wing was, and going through, device by device, making sure it's functional and operating as designed. You can usually save another 5 to 10% on top of that. So there's a lot to be done here if people want to spend the time and do it. So, but that still doesn't answer all the questions. If we retrofit the lighting, we retrofit the BAS, we should at least be getting into the mid 70s. Well, we do something else along the way called the diagnostic. And there's a lot of pretty pictures, pretty colors here. I call these like Wonder Bread slices. So let me just take a moment and explain this. First of all, this is a summer month, so we're looking at the month of August, and along the x-axis is 15-minute intervals of utility data. This is demand data. So 24 hours times 4, 15 minutes per hour gives us a bunch of points. And then the y-axis are the days of the month, and and then we can see actually if you had this in Excel, you could fly over it and get behind it and see everything that's going on. But what we see is, this building is basically not shutting down. I mean, the first two slices here are Saturday and Sunday, and it's completely flatlined. I mean, there's nothing happening in the building, but the lights are on, the HVAC is on, and that's what the owner said. The tenant just wants the building operating 24 by 7, just just post COVID, and somebody could come in at any time, and they don't want to have them inconvenienced with a little bit of temperature discomfort. So that's what they're doing. And you can see the Monday where there's a little bit of a curve here where there's occupancy and people and PCs operating. But that's how this building is operated. And they're not going to get to a score level until they're allowed to change that to do something else. Um, Now I'm going to show you another diagnostic. This happens to be a 1 million square foot building in Jersey City. And it's the same thing. The x-axis has the 24 hours and 15-minute intervals on it, and the y-axis, or whatever the number. Then here's the days of the month, and again, this is August. And the first curve you see is nice flat start in the morning from midnight to roughly 5 o'clock in the morning. Then everything turns on. It peaks during the day, nice flat peak during the day, and then at the end of the day begins to tail off. The denouement. Cleaning staff finishes up, turn lights off as they go, and there's a nice, beautiful, crisp shutdown. It's perfect. This is what we look for. This is a well-engineered, operated building. It's doing its job, it's operating the way it's supposed to operate. But, one of the things these curves do is they help us find anomalies. And a way to describe these curves is like what a surgeon does when they look at your heart. They look at the blood pressure at different points in the heart. They look at the electrical impulses of the heart, and you can judge the health of the heart. It's the same thing with these profiles. You can see exactly what's going on. You're studying the amplitude and durations, etc. But the point I wanted to draw your attention to is what we found out about this particular operator. He was actually starting the building on Monday mornings at like 3 o'clock in the morning on the summertime, pre-cooling the building so that when people came in on Monday morning, no problem. Everybody's comfortable, nobody's cold and clammy, and which makes sense. It's perfectly honorable thing to do. But that's the kind of thing you find out. That's just an obvious thing. Other things are somewhat more subtle. But this gives us the jumping off point to try to find out what's wrong with the building and to solve it and come up with an energy plan. This is real-time energy management. This was a combination of two companies putting their brain power together to give us a real-time picture of the energy consumed in the building. Along the x-axis is the day. This is a Monday. On the far left is 12 a.m. The y-axis is kW consumption. And what we're looking at here is the interesting curve is the blue one. And you can see this jagged curve. And this represents the actual input data from the building's power meter. So things are turning off, turning on, whatever, and it's doing what it's doing. So the building operator sees this, right? They get to see exactly what's happening. And then what we did is you had another company engineer a idealized load profile or goal profile. That's this orange line. And we're able to actually construct an hourly budget for the building for the whole year, depending upon the day of the week and the season, that type of thing. And the ask of the operating engineer is to just keep the building's energy use, this blue line, below the orange line, and it becomes an opportunity to compete with the orange line. And the operator having the ability to continuously monitor electricity use, they can see if something goes wrong very, very quickly. And the key word here is awareness. And it's without awareness, people can't take appropriate action. But with awareness and giving them the tools to take appropriate action, nature takes its course. It takes its course, and people generally will make the right decision. And that's one of the tools you give to people. And it's really remarkable how much energy these types of approaches save, just increasing awareness. And that's a lot of what our whole goal as a utilities consultant is just increasing awareness throughout all levels of your organization, C-level, all the way down to the building manager. And things happen, positive things happen when that's done. So let's talk about energy master planning. And the seven P's of management are prior proper planning prevents blank poor performance. I can't say what blank is, but you can imagine prior proper planning prevents blank poor performance. And doing this job right best, takes a plan. And the plan starts off with, what are the no cost and low cost efficiency improvements that can be done? How do we standardize best operating practices? We know how commercial office buildings work. We know how commercial apartment buildings work. We know how just about any facility works. What are the practices we want to put in place to make it work most efficiently and to get everybody on board with working the same way. And then if we're building something new or we're doing a major retrofit, we want to make sure we build into it efficiency so that we don't have to come back later and do a retrofit. And then real-time energy management that I talked about before. It's great to have that overlaid on your buildings and build awareness, continuous awareness for your operation. And then we identify capital improvements. What are the improvement measures that can be done, across the portfolio and all the buildings? What capital is available? What incentives are available? What do we want to do first? And that's very, very important. You have to spend some money if you want to get to the next level. Key value drivers, they changed over time. It used to be just energy efficiency and reducing kilowatt hours, but it's become a new game with the advent of AI, and effectively our regulators were caught on their heels with the speed at which renewable energy was going to be generated, and they held back on developing fossil traditional thermal plants. And now we're kind of stuck with our pants down at our ankles here. But KW is demand. And right now, the grid supply is running at about $10 a kilowatt a month. And that's every month you pay $10 a kilowatt hour based upon last summer's peak. So you have to pay that, for 12 months, and then you get a chance to reset that as each summer goes by. But that doesn't take effect until the following summer. So what's this leapfrog thing? That's just the energy. On top of that is the capacity charge from the utility company. It's around about $5 per kilowatt per month in the winter, and then about $15 per kilowatt per month in the summer. So capacity matters. People say AI is free, it's great, it's free. Guess what? AI has driven up capacity costs to these unbelievable levels. There's no end in sight to where this is going, as far as I can see at this point. It's going to get worse before it gets better. AI is not free. We're actually all paying for it in our utility bills as we speak. Load flexibility is important as capacity costs increase. You can be part of a demand side management program to, if you can offload some usage of capacity during a peak period, you can get paid for that. Energy procurement is important. The lower the rate of the energy, the lower the total cost. Tenant electric revenue, as capacity costs become higher and higher, it's more important to pass those costs on to your tenants. So if we do time of use billing, the tenant pays the bulk of the capacity costs. We typically see about a 20% increase in tenant electric revenue by re-engineering the building rate for time of use. And management leadership is the key. It starts at the top. If management leads the way, we help management set the policy, everybody gets aligned. Eventually, we can celebrate success at the end of our accomplishment. A little bit on incentives. Just take a quick look at time. I think we're hanging in there, right? Okay. There's a lot of incentives, some varied, all kinds of incentives available for improvements, for all kinds of projects. They're divided into two general parts. Some are utility administered, some are BPU administered. One is BPU administered. So there's the New Jersey Clean Energy Program, and that's utility administered. There's trade allies like myself that are available to facilitate finding the incentives and figuring out which ones work best. There's two general categories of them: prescriptives, which are fairly formulaic, and then custom incentives for smaller custom projects that don't fit into the formulaic incentives. It's mostly for lighting, HVAC, but there are some others for other kinds of projects. On-bill financing is often available, and that's great if we're short of capital. we can actually, pay back these projects through on-bill financing. Usually it's, 5 years, interest free, so it works out great. There are advanced custom programs for large users. The one I like the most is the Large Energy User Program that's BPU administered. It's the simplest to deal with. It's doesn't have any risks. So if you don't meet your savings goals after you finish the job, there's no clawback to the incentive. The other one that's new on the field is engineered systems that works for anybody. That is utility administered. There's a lot of front end energy engineering work, a lot of approval work, a lot of review work. It's very, very detailed, but it's all doable. And at the end, you've got to demonstrate that you've done the job right. So those are the two main programs that I would see for large users here in the NAIOP community. Clean Energy Program also has incentives for new construction. Again, build it right the first time. It's far more expensive to go back and upgrade it to more efficient after the fact. And separate and apart from all these is a federal tax incentive on top, in addition to all these. It's called the Section 179D deduction, and you can get up to $1.80 a square foot. That's for lighting, one bucket. HVAC is another bucket. An envelope is another bucket. And if you beat ASHRAE 90.1 by 50%, you can get this $1.80 a square foot. I put a caveat in here because HR 1 changed a lot of the renewable project incentives and other incentives, and I haven't yet done the research to figure out if this 179D deduction has been affected. But I just put that in there, as a caveat. So that pretty much concludes my remarks. And I guess I'll pause here now and turn it back over to Dan for what he wants to do next.
Thanks, Jeff. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Complimented Casey's perfectly. Going to open up the opportunity to either raise your hand or submit a question in the chat for a couple seconds here before I do some quick concluding remarks. All right. Well, being no questions asked, everyone knows how to reach Casey and Jeff. You don't know how to reach us. Jeff's also a great member of an organization called BOMA, New Jersey, Building Owners and Managers Association. That's a great partner of NAIOP. And I know that they're focused a lot on this, and we consider BOMA a great partner in our efforts here. Next Thursday, as a reminder, we have our annual member meeting with a great economic outlook. And I see a question. Let's do it. All right. So the question is, so are there no penalties for not participating? Are there any incentives for participating in the benchmarking program, specifically beyond the cost savings of using less electricity? Perhaps Jeff could jump on that if Casey's still on. We'll start with Jeff and maybe ask Casey to add some color.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And that's a good question, actually. I guess the benefits are, like one of my first slides was, what the studies have done is determined that companies that actually pay attention to energy and do benchmarking, it's a proxy indicator for just simply a well-managed company. So you're looking for top-S companies like my alma mater, McCallie. That's a proxy for companies that know how to get the job done, not only in energy management, but throughout every other aspect of management. The other thing I'd add is that I don't think this whole energy appetite issue is going away anytime soon. The whole concept of state government, particularly New Jersey, as much as I lived here almost my entire life, they just have a habit of regulating everything at one point or another, and it's just a matter of time, I think, before Energy Star benchmarking becomes required. And then once it becomes required, it'll be just a matter of time before we're going to be instructed on how much energy we're allowed to use without getting penalized. So, that's what I think the benefits are.
If you could feel free to turn off your screen sharing.
Oh, sorry.
And Casey, if you have any color to add.
I would echo Jeff's sentiment that it's It's benchmarking is the strategic first step in any energy efficiency strategy. So while benchmarking itself does not necessarily reduce any electricity, natural gas, water usage, it gives you the data to take the action as it relates to the Clean Energy Act. No, there's no. Again, I'll confirm. I know the question is confirming that there are no penalties, but no penalties and no direct incentives at this time. However, it does. If you do participate and comply and engage with the program, that is a way to get your foot in the door to find out more information about the energy efficiency programs that would be available to yourselves or to your properties.
Casey, has BPU taken a position on the percentage compliance that they believe to be taking place currently, or aggregated the data of what they have received in terms of the percentage of what they perceive, square footage of commercial real estate is statewide, and the percentage of square foot there of compliance? Has there been any efforts to aggregate that and make that information public?
It's a great question, Dan. I have not been privy to those types of conversations. I do know that that I think that is ultimately the goal, but that's more speculation than definitive at this point. I do know that the ultimate goal is to have some form of data public to the public, to make this publicly available. I don't know if I said public enough, but yeah.
We'll bark up another tree on that one, but I appreciate your answer.
Fair enough.
All right. All right. Excellent. Well, listen, thank you all so much for joining this webinar today. We hope that you got value out of it. This webinar has been recorded and will be shared. So those that were not able to participate, make the time today, will be able to benefit from it. And stay tuned for our more interesting and on-market education opportunities from NAIOP New Jersey in 2026. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.